Hey guys, welcome. Hat Tuesday number 39, Hat Tuesday number 39, and we already have a guest in the weight room. Let me bring on Paul.
Good
Paul, how's it going, my
afternoon,
friend?
How you doing?
How are you?
Very good, thank you. Very good. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. I know we'll have Robert joining us soon. I just wanted to I don't know if the news made it all the way back, but the New York Knicks won the NBA Finals. 53
Hey.
years in the making since our last championship. So the Mets Knicks fedora has already worked some magic for on the basketball side. We'll see. The baseball side is not looking so great so far, but hey. One
Congratulations.
championship. That's a pretty good track record.
Yeah, I say. Wow. Sounds good to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So PJ Murphy and son gets another win, another achievement there.
Thank you so much, Luke. Well, there's a first. Yeah. Great.
Yeah. Any new hat news on your end?
Yeah, I've got a few commissions at the moment. One gentleman is for an 80% beaver fur felt open road hat, and so that'll be quite nice to make. Well, very nice to make actually. Another one for more of a Stratoliner style. I think the gentleman's not he's had hats before, but not of any quality. So we wanted to go in fairly low key to start off with, and just see what's going to happen from that.
Yeah.
I've got another order online from FEPSA, so we'll see what they send me. I've got a felt coming through that's for a gentleman for a Western style hat that's 100% beaver fur felt. But interesting, it's 260 gram Western weight. Now that's probably about the heaviest that I've ever seen from FEPSA.
Yeah.
Now that's going to present a few challenges in terms of creating the brim break. So it's going to have to be soaked heavily and then formed over the block and then left to dry for 3 or 4 days. It's not something that you can really steam and hope that you get it there, because you're just not going to get the nice sharp brim break that you need around the bottom of the crown here to make it look how it should, so that'd be an interesting one to do as well.
All right. Yeah. 260 gram, man. That's
big hat. Yeah. Yeah, that's a dense fur felt, and it's a nice sort of brownie color, I think.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to getting that.
Yeah. All right. That's excellent. We still don't have Robert. Hopefully he's having an okay time. Let me just make sure we send him a message. That way we he knows that we're live. Robert, if you're listening, hopefully you're not having trouble. Live. There we go. Yeah, so we got a good one today. I think we had let's see, we have a comment. We got Josh in the chat room. How you doing, Josh? Oh, we got Robert.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Robert?
I'm well.
Excellent.
Hi, Robert.
Yeah, we were just talking. I was mentioning earlier about the Mets Knicks fedora worked some magic on Saturday. The Knicks, after 53 years, won a championship, and so yeah, that's a pretty good early returns on that fedora.
I thought I got a kick out of it because it was probably way back in the 70s was the last time I actually followed basketball.
Yeah.
So you can't miss it. But when I saw in the news about the Knicks, and it's like, damn, I don't think they won it since the last time I checked.
No, 1973 to be exact. And it's become a long running kind of stigma, in which I'm used to as a Mets fan in terms of long droughts, because the last time we won there was 1986. But the Knicks had it even worse up until this year. And, we were contenders for a little while. And this year didn't seem like we kind of put it together in the playoffs and had an amazing run. And, it's good to at least have, a championship finally for that group, because as a Mets fan, who knows when the Mets will win it, but
yeah,
that's another story.
Yeah.
Not looking so great.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, and it's not for lack of spending money.
Correct. That's for sure. That's for sure. But such is life. But yeah, we'll take the Fedora win in any sport. So how about you, Robert? Any new hat news? I think Nathan posted the Panama that you had created for him. Beautiful hat.
Yeah, that was I shipped out 3 Panamas last week, and 2 of it was for
Yeah.
a husband and wife, and they wanted them for specifically they're going on holiday, and they wanted their Panama hats, and so it's like it's always it's a crapshoot because you don't know. They have to go through customs, and I prepay all of the taxes and the duties and all that because I think that facilitates it a little bit. But it's always a wild card because you never know.
Yeah,
it gets stuck. But anyways, they live in Chicago, which is good because it's not all the way across the country. And anyways, they received their hats in on the seventh day. So it was like,
okay, yeah.
So I got it there with a week to spare, and he was pushing the hats, and he convinced his wife that she should have one too, but she was sort of a reluctant customer. Like, so eventually she said, "Okay, I do need a sun hat," and but she was never really bought into it fully. Sure. So she actually received her hat first. And I got an email from him, and he said, "You should have seen the smile on my wife's face when she put her hat on." And she said to him, "I just might not ever take it off."
Oh,
wow. That's maybe the best compliment I've ever received as a hat maker.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, that's got to be a very touching feeling to be able to get that kind of feedback when you see that reluctance and those barriers kind of break down.
Yeah, I think there was that. Well, what am I going to get for my money? What is this whole custom-made hat thing? And anyways, if nothing else, I've converted her.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. On our side.
I love it. Well, we got a great topic here today. I'm glad we have both of you guys on because, for me, and you guys got to know, I tend not to modify most of my creations. Like I said, if the hats, doesn't fit right, usually I'll, do something non-invasive. And if not, I'll find a way to like either sell it or give it away. Or if I really just like having the hat, then I'll just keep it and hold on to it and just be eye candy. But for the most part, sizing. Why is hat sizing so important? Why is it such a big deal? I think that's a good question to kind of start off with. Why is fit so important?
It's a bit like a pair of gloves, isn't it? I mean, you can put a pair of industrial gloves on that you actually can work on the car with, and you know what it's like. You can't really feel it, touch it. You can grab hold of something, but you can't get into the detail. And it's the same with hats. When you put on a hat that's off the peg, and you think, yeah, this will do the job. This is going to keep the sun from me, the weather, whatever you've got in mind. But it doesn't feel like the kid leather gloves that you put on your hands, and you can actually feel, or the chamois leather type gloves where you can feel everything that goes on whilst you're wearing them. And that's clearly where we come in and custom make a hat for somebody, because I think probably the same as myself, Robert, that when I do manage to get it right for somebody and they get a good fitting hat, they're over the moon, because they've never actually tried. Well, in the UK, it's rare to get that, but they've never actually tried and got a hat to fit in such a way before. And it's a lovely compliment to have as a hatter.
Yeah. I think a lot of times it's I remember back when I actually wore suits. And in my suit wearing days, I was fortunate enough because I could go in and I could buy a suit off the rack, a 42 tall, and it fit me, just minor alterations, and it was a good fitting suit. But I think not a lot of people had that luxury.
Yeah.
and so, but for those, they wouldn't necessarily go to a bespoke suit. They would just buy off the rack and put up with it.
Right.
And I think that holds true for hat wearers as well, because there is a percentage of the population who has a normal, very standard, regular oval shaped head, and they could go in and they can buy a Stetson off the shelf, plunk it on their head, and walk out the door.
Right.
But there's a lot of people out there that aren't that size or that shape, and so, as Paul, you suggest, it's like they put up with it, not really knowing that there is such a thing as a proper fitting hat. And that's because it's like, I guess, anything in the human condition, our head shapes exist on a continuum, and very few of us are complete regular ovals or exact long ovals. We exist somewhere along there, and that's where we come in, is because we can adjust to those anomalous sizes.
Yeah.
But I think also the price, people think that having a custom made hat is beyond their means, whereas in fact, these days it's not really beyond their means when you boil it down. And actually, I was only speaking to a gentleman today about a hat that I'm going to be building for him, and he measured his head round, and he measured up a 56, but he had a good head of hair. And I said, look, have you got your hair fairly short for this time of year? He said, well, actually it happens. Yeah, I do. He said, I let it grow in the wintertime. I said, okay. So here's the thing. Do we build the hat half a size bigger now, or do we build it to size? And then actually it becomes, too tight for your winter hair. But I said, well, look, one of the solutions I've got is to build one that's half a size bigger, and then give you a reducing piece of material that I make, a stretchy material that goes behind the leather sweatband to include with the hat, so that you've then got the choice. And he said, that's brilliant. I never knew you could do that. And it just brought home, and I thought that was so good that happened today, because it is the thing that, when you're not, when you haven't got any hair, you haven't got to worry about it.
Right.
When you've got hair, then of course it grows.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
It's I say that probably, I don't know, maybe 15%, maybe 20% of my clientele are female.
Yeah.
I'd like it to be more, because their hats are more fun in a way, more challenging, because the breadth of the trimmings is way more varied than it is for men. But they present a special challenge because women have hair,
right,
and they wear it varying ways. And so it's one of the questions that I have to deal with when I'm dealing with it's like, how do you wear your hair? Do you wear it up? Do you wear it down? Because it can change the size required, like a full size.
Yeah.
So generally, it's because the gap can be so wide. It's like, well, how are you going to be? How do you want to wear your hair when you're wearing this hat? And then we build the hat to suit the hairstyle as well, because there's just not that much latitude in the sizing of the hat. So it does present a whole different set of problems.
Yeah, I gotta admit, I never even thought about that. Obviously, my hairstyle doesn't change that dramatically, but that's a great point, because you'll see that impact in terms of how if the hair is braided and if they wear it up, that's going to have a huge impact on what hat they can wear. Wow, that's I mean, a whole nother consideration right there. Do you guys find that generally folks know? Like, do you get asked, how should it fit? Like, how do I know if it's the right fit or not?
Yeah. I mean, people do ask that question, and it's very much a case of comfort and where's their line of acceptability? Because if they want one that fits perfectly, then really I either need to send them a conformer, or have them come and visit me, and then draw up the shape of their head and actually make a wooden block to the shape of their head. Now, People tend not to do that in the UK unless they want something that's of a higher quality. And so what then I'm talking to them about is perhaps not having such a heavyweight felt. But in saying that, the gentleman I was talking to today, you know, a 240-gram weight, 80% beaver fur felt, it's going to be quite a stiff hat. We haven't done a conformator measurement of his head. It's going to be to size. But fortunately, he's 70, 80 miles away from me. So if I need to, I could go up retrospectively, measure his head, put a form together and use that to then, you know, reshape the hat. But I think probably you bring up a good point that there are different times that sizing might be in the discussion. So first of all, when you're and shapes, of course. First of all, it's when you're making a hat for somebody. Secondly, and I'm sure all hatters get it, is that, you know, the son, if you like, inherits a hat that the father or grandfather has worn a lot of their life. They would like to follow through. Older generations tend to have smaller heads, and so they want the hat stretched to fit them. And that can pose a number of issues, whether you stretch it, deconstruct it, reconstruct it, keep the same leather sweatband, replace it, whatever. So those are a different conversation. And then there's, of course, just the straightforward one that somebody says, I've seen that hat on your website. It's a size 59. I'm a 59 and a half. Can you just give that a little bit of a stretch to my size, please, and then send it out, you know?
Right.
So it's a number of different conversations that I guess we have as hatters about size and shape. And then there are numerous solutions that we provide to accommodate that.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that I think, because it is a question that gets asked a lot on the different forums, and particularly the Fedora Lounge.
Yeah.
Over the years, it's like hundreds of times that question comes up. It's like, can I stretch a hat? And it's I think the only honest answer is, as most things, it depends.
Right.
Because it really doesn't. But one thing that people don't understand is the construction of a hat, and how it's like it's this felt thing, but that it's built under tension in three different planes.
Yeah.
All working in harmony. And so the act of putting in a hat jack to stretch that hat to get you that extra half size or whatever, you can't adjust the hat in one of the planes without it affecting the other two, because they're all working in harmony with each other.
Right.
And that's where the whole suggestion of can I stretch a hat to fit?
Right.
Because if the question is actually truly stretching the hat, the answer is no, you can't.
Right.
If the question is more, can I ease it out so the hat's not quite so tight on my head?
Yeah.
Then it's like, yeah, there's a much better chance of you being able to do that rather than trying to stretch it.
Yeah.
Because in general, no. And then the other thing that people don't understand is you have a leather sweatband, and of course, leather, you can stretch leather.
Right.
But within the sweatband, there is that plastic filament, the reed, which is joined together. That's not stretchable.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, it has a memory, so you might be able to stretch it for a period of time, but generally it's going to want to come back.
Yeah.
So you're working against another thing. So you generally have to stretch it beyond that which you want, because it is going to rebound. And once you take it that far, you're going to end up distorting the hat.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's really, it's really, it's just fraught with difficulty.
Yeah, and you get that. I mean, you see that with the vintage all the time. Obviously, the way that works is because a lot of folks are buying online. That's how they come across a lot of their product, right? and you inevitably, and because of a lot of these vintage hats, they don't come in these bigger sizes. And invariably, I just feel like for the vintage game, it's almost invariably, how do I make this big? How do I stretch this out? And you get into that kind of like, what point is too much, because then you hear the horror stories on some of the folks like, yep, went too far, because
I found the limit.
yeah. They were trying to go from a really small size to something that was, and I don't know if there's like a general guideline, but I heard anywhere from, half a size up to no more than one full size. And I don't know if that makes sense in as much as like centimeters. I don't know if there's like a set thing. And I know there's a lot of parameters there. So I don't know if you gentlemen had thoughts on that.
I think what I would say is that you bring up a good point, and Robert mentioned about the shrinkage and things. With the older hats, what I found, and I'm sure we've all find, is that they shrink. And actually, even the new hats that we make, if they go out into the rain or whatever, and they depends how they're dried, they may well shrink a little bit. So the first thing I do when I get somebody's hat in and they're talking about resizing is to measure it, and invariably it's got a size reference in there. So let's say it's a 58 centimeter or whatever, and you measure it and it comes below that. Well, the chances are you'll be able to stretch it back to that 58 because that's probably what it's been made to. Then what you really are faced with is exactly what Robert says, which is, the leather will give a bit, but the reed won't, neither with a metal connector or so on. So, and also in addition to that, there's this, there's the material that goes around the crown.
Yeah.
And that's been made to fit to a particular crown size. So if you increase the crown size, then clearly that's going to increase and distort and possibly even break. It's only material after all. So you're into this conversation and actually pick up on your point. Yes, you might be able to go from if it's a 58 and it's gone down to a 57.5, you might be able to get it to a 58.5, there or thereabouts. Much more than that, you really are into a conversation about deconstructing and making it up.
Yeah. And that's, in terms of American sizing, that's about an eighth, going from 57 is 7 1/8 to 58, 7 1/4. So yeah, not a whole lot there. And, these folks get very ambitious, as I've seen with some of the hats. And I understand, because I've come across a lot of pieces that I'm like, there's no way in heck that this is ever going to fit my head. And you have to kind of make that judgment call. I'm like, this is meant for somebody else.
Yeah, pass it on. I just wanted to demonstrate one thing, which is another thing that people don't realize, is that if you're going to buy a hat jack or a hat stretcher, that there's two types, and it's really important to know what your head shape is.
Yeah.
Because if you're a long oval, so say you've bought a hat off the shelf, which tends to be regular ovals, and so you want to adjust it so that it's more long oval in shape, then you can buy a two-way stretcher with just this, and so it moves, but it only expands north-south.
Right.
So when it's inside the hat, what you're doing is you're elongating it and turning it into more of a long oval.
Yeah.
Which is fine if you're a long oval, but if you're a regular oval and you're trying to make the hat overall bigger, then what you need to do is a four-way. And you can see there's the four pieces of wood. And then, so what happens with that, as you expand, it moves out in the four quadrants.
Yeah.
So that's something that you need to know, is you got to get clear on what am I trying to achieve here?
Yeah.
And have the right tool to do the job.
Yeah. The other thing is when using one of those, I haven't got as much equipment as Robert, I'm afraid, but I do have a classic sort of stretcher here, and as you can probably see, it's angled so that this is the base, if you like, and this is the the top of the hat up here, so it's going inwards. And this is only a two-way stretcher. But what can happen, of course, if you try and be over-ambitious, you'll leave a line here around the hat felt, okay? And of course, that's not going to look acceptable. So again, you have to be very careful. And actually, in addition to that, there's stretchers such as, I think we've seen it before, but this is still a two-way stretcher, but it's very much what I might use to get that extra half size when I'm actually making a hat. So I'll put it on a 59 block, take it off the block, offer up the leather sweatband and see where the actual size is, and then stretch accordingly between this and whatever else I've got to be able to bring it up to size. But you've got to be quite delicate, otherwise you'll leave marks in the felt. You know, it's not an exact science, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I have a minor workaround to that is like yours. Well, this is an antique one, which tend to be, I don't know, I think that's probably 3-inch width. The modern ones, the modern two-way hat jacks tend to be much narrower, and I've got a few of them, and a couple of them have no taper because we're only dealing with like an inch.
2 inches. Yeah, 2 inches probably. Yeah.
And they can work actually better than these if you're just trying to ease it out, because you can put it in the hat just by the reed, and so you're actually just pushing out at the very base of the hat, not 3 inches up, and you can ease it out and not create that bulge.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried, Robert? Have you ever tried when I put my reeds in? I use a metal reed connector and just crimp it. You know, have you ever tried uncrimping the reed and then and taking out the metal ferrule, stretching the hat, and then replacing it with a new metal ferrule, and therefore instead of the reeds being doved up together, there may be a little, you know, 1/4 of an inch or something there which has been gained. I'm not trying. I've just thought about it whilst I'm talking here, but that might be an option.
It is. Whenever I place an order with my sweatband guy, I always get him to throw in a coil of the reed, because in general, like if you snip it, then and you're expanding it, the reed then is too short.
Yeah.
So yeah. But then I do this if I'm restoring a vintage hat where the sweatband is good, and they want to retain the provenance of it, and that is I put in a spacer, because if you deconstruct the hat, the old sweatband won't work, because it's going to be, you know,
1/2 inch difference or something, isn't it?
Yeah, 1/4 inch or you know, 1/2 centimeter difference. So I don't throw away anything. So I keep all of my sweatband cuttings.
Yeah.
So often I'll have a piece of leather that matches the color of the original, and so I mean, yeah, you can't really hide that there's a spacer in there, but at least it's not jarringly different. That way they get to keep, because most of the provenance of the hat is contained within the sweatband.
Right.
Yeah, I've done that before. You've got 2 lines of stitching, but you know, it keeps the original in there. But of course, you have to take it out to do well. Yeah, if you're hand stitching it, you don't necessarily have to take it out, but it is fiddly. But what people don't always realise is the time that it takes for Robert and I to do this work, and therefore the cost that's associated with it, because it's almost like a labour of love. You know, that you can't really charge the time that it takes to do it, and I find myself just I guess reveling in the fact that we've managed to keep an older hat in circulation, recycled it, whatever you want to call it, and also made somebody's dream or pleasure in terms of a family heirloom come true. And that's, you know, that's quite a nice thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think that is one of the things that I hear most times. There's several folks that will post is like, this hat belonged to my dad or my granddad. So it's not a matter of just, you know, and they really want to wear it. In which case, you want to, those are things that you all have to take into account with what modifications you're willing to do. But you guys mentioned, now that I've seen the 2-way and the 4-way stretchers, is it safe to say that the 2-way is a little less invasive than the 4-way?
No, I'd say the reverse.
The reverse? Okay, the 4-way would be less invasive.
Because each quadrant is moving, like for every turn of the screw, each of the quadrants is moving less.
Okay.
Whereas with the 2-way, it's
more brutal
in the two directions.
Yeah.
You get more movement. I don't know if that makes sense.
Okay. And then, how often is the sweatband kind of like, is that easy to tell? I mean, obviously, I think in terms of my own, thinking, I'm thinking that how brittle that sweatband is going to play a huge factor. But are there any other considerations in terms of like the actual sweatband? You're especially going before you even get to it. Those are things that you hope beforehand. But at some point, you're like, no, this is
I don't know. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, Paul. But it's like, for me, I've never been a leather worker, so I don't kind of know leather. I don't understand it. But it's weird in that. I mean, I've restored Borsalinos from the 1940s, and the leather sweatband is as new. Right? It's supple, and then I've done others where, to the appearance, it's like, oh, I can save the sweatband. It looks good, and then I touch it, and it crumbles.
Right.
Yep.
And so it's like, it's a mystery to me. And I think my take on it, Paul, is I think the acidity of our sweat has something to do with it. In that, my dear wife, for instance, can't wear leather watch straps, and not that she's a heavy sweater, but they tend to rot out quite quickly.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think it depends on the chemical composition of our sweat. That's the only thing that I can think of that begins to make sense.
I think it's a whole combination. I mean, I had a hobby that I don't really follow so much now, but before I was making hats, I was actually restoring leather Gladstone bags and leather briefcases. And it was a pastime. It was great. But what it did do is it enabled me to learn about leather or a little bit about leather anyway. And I know Josh is a leather enthusiast and makes a lot of things in leather. And you're right, there are different qualities of leather. I mean, unfortunately, here in the UK, we've got a number of mass manufacturing hatters that are actually making them to a price. And in fact, I can cite Christie's for one. Before they got sold out, I'm not sure what they're like now, but certainly they were using this sort of reconstituted leather, which was really awful, and it's very much like cardboard, not very comfortable to wear, nothing. And I think that we've had conversations about different leather sweatbands like sheepskin, rowan, which I think is sort of goat skin type, soft, good quality cow leather, and the thickness of the sweatband. And the other thing is, of course, that what I took the decision to do was actually put a 2-inch sweatband, 2-inch wide sweatband, rather than a 1 3/4 or 1 1/2, because being a gentleman without any hair, your head can perspire a lot more, and therefore if you've got a 2-inch wide leather sweatband, it will protect the felt a lot more from wicking from your perspiration. So the sweatband is an important thing, and yes, they do deteriorate over a period of time, and the better quality brands like the Borsalinos of this world and so on usually use a much better quality leather.
I'm restoring one right now. He's a good client. He picked up it's a Resistol 3X, and it's from maybe the 80s, and it was that era of not great Western hats, and it was too big for him. So I gently removed sweatband because I thought, well, I can cut it down, and because to visually it looked perfect, but as soon as I took it out, and I think it was when I cut the ferrule to measure it, and in the sort of the straightening of it, it crumbled in my hand. And it was, as you say, I think the only thing that it's that the terrible euphemism that they use, it's they call it genuine leather.
Yeah.
And whenever you see the term genuine leather, that means it's the crud at the end of the tanning process that somehow they've reconstructed into, because there's no grain to it, there's no nothing. It's just like it's just I think it's just leather crud that under pressure it's terrible stuff.
Yeah, Josh echoes that statement. He says quality leather you can get, never use genuine leather.
No, I mean I've got like a full hide of blue leather to make leather bands for Western hats here, and a few other sort of heavyweight proper hides that I can cut down and build the leather bands for the hats. I made that decision because in the UK I struggle to get the proper sort of American style bands to go around the crown, and so you're left with very little choice, really.
Yeah. And what about the role of steam? Meaning, is that a stepwise thing? Because I know that not everybody uses steam, or maybe they should. I don't know. But is that something that you can use in a stepwise way, or you should always use it?
My favorite analogy, and I think it's perfectly apt, is steam to leather is akin to salt on a garden slug.
Yeah,
that's the effect that if you and this is regardless of the quality of leather. If you give a leather sweatband a direct shot of steam, it curls up like bacon.
If you think of leather as being your skin, you need to moisturize it. You need to moisturize it. Whereas with the felt, of course, the felt construction, as we've seen when you watch various videos of FEPSA and so on, the felts are blown together under liquid, water and steam and what have you, and then they're bonded. So if you introduce water and steam, then it goes without saying it's going to loosen up and make the whole material a lot more malleable, so you can actually mold it how you want. So on the odd occasion that I've had a hat that's been too big for somebody and they want to make it smaller, I've then looked at the style of the hat and said, look, what I'm going to have to do is deconstruct it. I'm then going to have to make sure I've got a block that I can rebuild it in the same shape, height of the crown and so on. But the risk is, and this is the big risk, that if I do all of that, I then soak it in water and then reblock it. If I don't get it central on the block, then the edging is going to have to be recut. And so that's going to take the proportions that you've had slightly out of kilter. So that's another interesting thing.
And if it's got a bound brim on it, it's like I've restored hats, and it's like it's almost I've done it, but like trying to get it exactly centered so the brim, it's like
it's more work than making a new hat, Luke. Honestly, it really is. It's more work. I explained this to a gentleman
with one hand tied behind your back.
Yes. I mean, sometimes we sort of, well, I'm sure I certainly have. I've regretted taking on a particular hat because the time it's taken me to do it, and I'm thinking, I don't know about this. I'm really not sure. But fortunately for myself, my customers have been happy with the end result. But whilst you're going through that journey, as the hatter actually doing the work, gosh, it's stressful. And we want to do this because we enjoy it.
And I bet you guys got some good stories too. And I won't obligate you to share those.
This is, I don't know. This is my this goes back to my very beginning as a hat maker, hanging out my shingle and accepting work. And I got it. He was actually a fellow Canadian from Eastern Canada, and he had an old, very beat up Akubra.
Yeah.
Like it was a crap hat that he'd worn the crap out of it, and was looking to have it kind of renewed. But he didn't want to spend any money on it. And me being new, eager for the work, eager for the challenge, accepted it. And so in Canada, once a year, there's in October, it's a postage-free Tuesdays.
Yeah.
And so so he sent it here postage free, and then I caught a Tuesday and sent it back. So it didn't cost him any money for the postage, and I charged him $50.
Yeah.
And as I said, it was a beater Akubra, and he complained because it had a bound edge.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was right. I was an eighth of an inch out on the sides.
Yeah.
I didn't get the brim widths exact.
Yeah.
Visually, you couldn't tell, but he got his tape measure out there, and so it was like, oh dear God, So I sent him his $50 back and said, don't ever darken my doorstep again.
Yeah.
But it was like, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to take on restorations? And
Right.
Yeah, I do. Just be smarter about it.
Yeah.
But I really do, because it's very rewarding.
Yeah. That actually reminded me of a question that in terms of the actual materials. So obviously we haven't really talked about, my assumption was just about felts, right? In terms of the traditional rabbit felt, but whether it's beaver or nutria, a straw hat or a wool hat. I mean, I'd imagine that's going to be a big consideration as well before you decide to make any modifications. Do you guys have any input on that?
I'm a big fan of rabbit.
Yeah.
And I know in the hatting world, and I seem to have noticed it more in the last few weeks, few months, that a number of hatters are dropping rabbit and are focusing exclusively on working with beaver felts.
Yeah.
And I'm certainly not one of them, because my clientele is, I don't know, I'm probably at least 2/3 rabbit over beaver, because my clientele have limited budgets. So with rabbit, I can provide them with a really nice hat at an affordable price.
Yeah.
And I understand, and I agree that beaver is a superior felt, no question. But having said that, 95% of the vintage hats that I work on, some that are 100 years old, they're rabbit felts.
Right.
So, granted, it's like, it's a valid argument. Well, the rabbit felt used to be better quality back then than it is now. And it's like, yeah, but it doesn't mean that the rabbit felt today is crap.
Right.
Those FEPSA 120 gram rabbit felts, that's a pretty damn nice felt.
Yeah.
So I don't see, I think maybe if I was a working cowboy and I wanted a hat that I was going to be wearing out on the range, I'd spring for beaver, because it's a felt that can be rebuilt numerous times and come out looking great.
Right.
I've never done that with a rabbit, so I'm not sure. But other than that,
But here is the question, though, Robert. I've had a number of conversations with customers about, should they go for 100% beaver fur felt, Western weight, let's say 250, 260 grams, or 240 to 260 grams, or the price drop is quite significant to go to an 80% beaver, 20% rabbit. And when I've looked at the FEPSA, both of them, you know, the difference, I couldn't tell the difference. I really, you know, 20% difference to me is not a great deal. The price difference is quite significant. It's a 150, 200 pounds per belt, you know.
I would even suggest that I own one Western weight 50/50, and it's a beautiful hat.
Yeah.
It has I mean I could easily lie and say it's beaver and no one is going to challenge me.
Yeah.
It has the luster of beaver. It's stiff, but it's like visually you can't tell. And I've had the hat for 15 years, and it's a beautiful hat.
And that's a different, I mean, it brings up a different point, which is actually, are we wearing the hats for ourselves and therefore and for a purpose, or because we feel we know their quality and we want to wear something that's a high quality? Because most other people wouldn't know.
Right. No one's gonna know.
And I get that. I mean, I've worn, you know, I've got this. I really like this. It's an 80% beaver fur felt, and actually, when you put it together with a 100% rabbit fur felt, you can see the difference in the color. This is far more dense and it's a beautiful hat to touch. But if I wore that out and didn't have another reference point to rabbit, people wouldn't know.
Right.
You know. So it's a funny old world that we live in, isn't it? In that yeah.
Well, I mean, again, to each his own. You know, if you got the coin to spring for it, that's great. You know, but I guess my thing was, do these different felts or types of felts respond differently to stretching? You know, maybe beaver's more pliable. I don't know. I don't know, or maybe less pliable if it's generally stiffer.
I mean, my experience on the beaver felt is that it seems to be more accommodating. Let's put it that way. And you know, I've recently had a felt that's probably from the 1940s, and I've tried to reshape it from a very small size to a bigger one, and it was far more forgiving with the beaver fur felt than ever a rabbit fur felt was. But you also asked about straw, and I mean, I wouldn't even touch a straw hat to stretch it. You know, it's I just wouldn't even go there because of the weave on the straw hat is so, well, obviously you can get some Monte Cristo that are very, very tight weaves, but you know, I wouldn't even be looking at that. I'd just say buy another one. You know? Right. But in answer to your question, I think that wool is probably the one that I'd worry more about, because the fiber is not as tight. If I'm right there, Robert, I don't do much work in wool, but you know, it doesn't feel as though it's anywhere near as tight as rabbit, or let alone beaver. But I certainly wouldn't want to do too much with that.
Yeah, I've never, well, that's okay. I did, I've restored 2 wool hats.
Yeah.
Both for really elderly people, and I did it out of the kindness of my heart and for the challenge of it. Yeah. But it's, and I think I've made exactly 1 wool felt in my life. Enough to know that I'm never doing this again.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing that we haven't mentioned at all is of course, if somebody's bought a hat, and they just want a little tiny bit more comfort in it, what do we do? And with things like material spacers that you can put in with this has got double-sided tape on it, by the way. This is I don't know whether you can see that. This you can get off of Amazon, and you buy them in packs of maybe 10 or 12. And this is like a neoprene type. I guess it's about 2 or 3 millimeters thick, 3 millimeters thick maybe. And you can place this around inside and behind the leather sweatband. So that can help, and perhaps in the front and in the back to start off with, and then do the sides. And finally is the sort of, this is the material that we use to do mostly ladies, but occasionally men's sweatbands. It's a stretchy sweatband material. I guess it's about an inch thick. And what I do is I tend to make that up half a size smaller than the actual head itself, in the leather sweatband, and then pop it inside the sweatbands.
Yeah.
Oh, to get the, and what's it made out of? Is it like a cotton or?
No, it's a synthetic material, Robert. It's I don't know where I got this. I think I got it from Hart and Abraham. Yeah, it's soft on one side to the touch. It would take, the perspiration and soak it up, but it's I've only ever used it in a hat sweatband on 3 or 4 hats. The rest of the time I've just used it to give people a complimentary adjuster, if you like. But it's certainly an option and it takes us a few moments to measure it out, put it on the sewing machine, sew up the 2 ends, and just chuck it in the box. And it's it's a nice thing to offer people as a freebie, if you like.
Yeah. Love it. All right, I just want to make sure that before we close out, that there's not anything that we missed. We covered a lot there, and
I just want to. Paul mentioned it at the very beginning of the show, but I wanted to show. This is what we call a band block.
Yeah.
And this is my personal one, and it's cut. To match the shape of my head from the Conformateur. And I actually have a couple of hats that I bought secondhand, and they are long, or they're regular ovals. They're Western weight, so they don't feel completely comfortable on my head. And so I'll use this to insert in the hat when it's not being worn, and then it feels better because while it's sitting there, it's conforming. But the interesting thing is that it shows you the limitations of stretching a hat. Is that if I neglect to put this back into the hat when it goes back in the box, the next time I take it out a month from now, it has reverted to the regular oval shape. So there's no real fix to it. There's the adjustment that is episodic.
Yeah, I guess if we all had the means, then we'd have one of those in our head shape for every single hat that we own. A bit like a pair of Church's handmade shoes. You'd have a pair of wood shoe trees, put them in there and leave them in there between the times that you wear it. But that's something that can be done, but my goodness, it would cost a bit. Yeah.
Right.
I've done it once, and it's encouraging enough. But instead of cutting it out of a 2x8 plank of wood, I've started making them out of construction foam.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Which is I did the prototypes, but I just cut it with my jigsaw. But I have to go to the tool shop today and buy finer tooth blades, because I was using a very coarse blade, and so it ripped the foam rather than cut it. So I have to go do that. But and then I need some fine tooth hole saw blades to cut the finger holes. But I think I was encouraged enough to take it to the next step, and the construction foam is cheap enough.
Yeah, I saw your post about that, Robert. I thought that was pretty brilliant. The idea also is that if you're able to provide your customer that won't really significantly impact the cost, if at all.
If at all. And it's shippable. Whereas I've always wanted to do this, but with the style of boxes that I use, I can't ship a hat with this in it. Right. I mean, I can, but the risk is great because it makes the hat top heavy. And what if this dislodges? It could seriously impact the look of the hat by the time the customer gets it. Yeah. Whereas with the foam, even if it is dislodged, it's not going to do any damage.
Yeah.
So it kind of works on all the levels. So I have high hopes.
I love it.
Yeah, look forward to that.
All right. Well, gentlemen, I guess now we're approaching the hour mark. I'll close it out. I want to thank Paul and I want to thank Robert for sharing their insights. Again, I learned a lot. and hopefully you guys at home have learned a lot. And well, I'm gonna leave you how I always leave you. All right, support these good fine folks in the Good Lukes Network. Support all the fine hatters outside the Good Lukes network. But regardless, if you got to do one thing, the one thing you got to do that's non-negotiable, won't get anybody after you, but you got to do it, is you got to stay hatting, my friend. Have a great day. Ciao, everybody.
Bye-bye.